Hey, welcome back. In addition to serving as a proof of life, this video is here to give you some advice, some updates, maybe a little brush up on your skills for F-class shooting for Southwest Nationals. That match is coming in just 10 more days, and there's going to be a lot of F-class shooters descending on Phoenix, Arizona. And I want all of them to shoot well. I want all of you to shoot your very best scores. So today's video is a little bit of the advice that I gave to my patrons a couple weeks ago so that they would shoot well. But I want to share just a little bit with you today because I don't want anybody to have a bad match. But before we get into that, I have a question for you. Do you like apples? We'll get back to that at the end of the video. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about that the elite shooters do at these pulled target matches that you may not be aware of or may not be current in because you've been shooting on electronic targets. Number one, first and foremost, is to take advantage of the shooters around you. Not in a bad way. But if they're over there launching rounds, twisting the tuner and launching more rounds, well, by all means, if you're not shooting, watch to see where it's hitting, to see what that wind is doing to their point of impact, because it's going to do the same thing to yours. It's an advantage that you may not be aware of because you've been shooting on electronic targets looking at only your target. Watch what the other shooters are getting for results, because those results will give you a really good idea of what the conditions are doing. For instance, let's say you're shooting along and the conditions start getting big and they're starting to drag you to those outer regions of the 10 ring. And you go, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop before I hammer a 9 or an 8 out there because I think a gust is coming, or I'm seeing the flags upwind of me are starting to get kind of stiff over there. And you stop. And now you're stuck with a problem. You are going to wait for your condition to come back. But how do you identify when your condition has come back? Well, that can be a little easier when you got the guys around you shooting. Because someone will shoot. It's inevitable. And when they do, look to see what they get. Did they shoot an X right in the middle? Well, if they did, it's back. Did they shoot a really wide 10 on one side or the other? Well, it may not be back the same way you thought it was. You might want to offset just a little bit your aim point just to make sure that you're in. Now, if they shoot and they get an 8 out the side, well, your condition isn't back. It's by far different. So do pay attention to what's going on around you when you're stopped. That's the first thing. Take advantage of the information that's available. It doesn't have to be presented to you right in your face for you to go look at it and say, what's going on? All right, second thing, when you're in competition, it's hot and heavy, you're going to be really mentally overtaxed. That's a given. That's normal and expected, which means that you want to make sure you don't fool yourself. In order to prevent this, there's something that I do. It's kind of a mental drill when I'm shooting sighters. When I'm shooting sighters, especially under unlimited sighters, and I have a chance to shoot some more if this goes wrong, on the second or third sighter, I'm waiting for a condition change in the mirage. If I see the condition change, I'm going to correct for the condition change I saw immediately and fire another round to see what it does. And this gets into leading and lagging indicators. If you have a direct crosswind, full value, right at 90 degrees, it doesn't really matter where your spotting scope is focused. You're going to see the wind at each point on the range about the same because the wind changes generally together. However, if you have a quartering wind, a quartering tailwind requires a different focal distance or focal depth, place where you're focusing your spotting scope, than what a headwind does. Because a tailwind is going to fill the range from behind you going forward at an angle. That means that when you see the mirage change, there's one of really two options. Either one, you see the mirage change at a distance that is so far away that the stuff that's between you and that point has changed long ago, which means you get some of those surprise changes, or you're focused up real close and you tend to see the change before it happens on enough of the range that it makes a big deflection difference for your shooting. So here's the trick. What I do is I try to focus based on head or tailwind, either uprange for tailwind or downrange for headwinds, so I tend to see the change early. And then I start to temper my corrections based on the timing associated with filling the entire range with that wind. Now, you can kind of see it in the flags too, but it's much easier with just plain old mirage. It comes down to timing. So if you think about the time it takes you to see a change in the mirage, identify what that change is, and figure out a correction for it, well, guess what? It's filled a little more of the range by the time you get there. So for a tailwind, if I'm focused about 200 yards in front of the line, I'm going to see that change. But it hasn't filled the range yet, so I'm not going to get the full effect of that change. So I can take a very timid approach to moving out, and I can walk my point of aim out, watching where the bullets are impacting. You can just chase the spotter from there. It works. Now, if I have a headwind, I want to be focused way downrange, like 800 yards on a 1,000-yard range, because that way I see it coming, and I get the same effect. I get ahead of it, and I can stay ahead of it because as it builds in, I just take a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Now, let's say we screw this up. Let's just look at what happens when we screw this up. Let's say I'm focused 800 yards downrange with a quartering tailwind. I don't see the mirage change if I'm shooting relatively quickly until I've already shot a 9 out the downwind side because a gust came in and blew me out, and I got surprised by it. And then I take a chasing shot cut to try to correct for it, and I shoot another 9 in the same spot because it's not that the wind speed is increasing. It's that more of the range is affected by that wind change. That's how you get a 9, followed by a big correction and another 9 in the same spot, followed by another correction and another 9 in the same spot. You simply are looking at the wrong chunk of air. So you want to look at those leading indicators. In other words, the places where the mirage is going to change the soonest as the wind changes, so you can start to anticipate it and start to lead the dance. You're trying to stay ahead of it. And if staying ahead of it is just a matter of making a slight correction when you see the mirage change, or seeing it change and knowing that it's going to start moving so you can start moving your point of impact to the upwind side of the X-ring so that you can just walk it on out there, that's all it takes to stay ahead of it. And that results in a clean, and a clean wins virtually every time. It's pretty rare to see anybody be clean all day, much less all match. So if you can shoot a clean on every relay, you just won the match. Between those two alone, I've been able to win a lot of matches, watching other people to see if I can glean some information. And then number 2, taking advantage of seeing a leading indicator rather than a lagging indicator so I can walk my point of aim smoothly and consistently with a quartering head or tailwind. Any angle other than direct crosswind. A direct crosswind, well, it's just going to be what it's going to be. This isn't going to fix every condition. It isn't going to make every condition easy, but there's those opportunities to take advantage of situations to get the best outcome for you. So leave me a comment below. Is this stuff that you already knew? Maybe things you haven't practiced in a while, but just need a little brush up on? Or is this completely new information to you about how I strategize my F-class shooting for individual matches? I'd love to hear from you. And back to that question that I asked at the beginning. How do you like them apples? I'll see you in the next video.